Hi, these comments are for Gigi. This is Michael from BetterTOEFLScores.com. So you completed an integrated speaking practice test and you're using my TOEFL speaking and writing feedback service I offer at BetterTOEFLScores.com for $99 a month. And I'm going to give you some feedback on the practice test that you just emailed me, I think yesterday. So I have the actual rubrics right here so I can justify the score. And let's listen to your practice test.
The university posted a bulletin stating that the radio station at the university will be closed down, and it's running by its students and broadcasts music for the campus and local community. The woman in the conversation explains why she disagrees with this proposal. First of all, she thinks nowadays there are better ways to listen to music. Students, most of them carry now their phones, and they don't own actually a radio. So they actually listen to on their phones, and the radio station does not offer the music online. The second reason she thinks they should not shut down is because the lack of incentive to run this business is not about interest, it's about they have to have a big commitment and take a lot of time and responsibility. So if the university could offer a course credit, maybe the students could be more interested in helping out and taking care of the business.
Okay, so I made some notes, and based on the practice test that you just did, I like your tone variation. You have a lot of enthusiasm in there. You're speaking quickly. You have a pretty good speaking rate. There were some unintelligible parts of the response, and you have some problems with your language use, so you have to be a little bit careful. Based on the rubrics here, I'm thinking probably right around 3. And I'm going to justify this score in just a minute. So when I look at the rubrics here, under pronunciation, you have it exhibits minor difficulties with pronunciation, intonation, or pacing. I think the tone is good, but there were a few areas in there I wasn't 100% sure some of the words that you were saying. So it does require listener effort at times. With language use, you have some imprecise or inaccurate use of vocabulary or grammatical structures. And the passive voice comes to mind, and you had some kind of unnecessary repetition. I think you said actually 2 or 3 times in there. So you want to be careful about repeating the same word more than once. It's probably not a good idea. I think topic development, it exhibits some incompleteness, maybe lack of specificity with some of the content in there. So I think 3.0 or maybe 23 to 24 points out of 30 is I think where you are right now based on that response. Now let's get more specific. Okay, let's take a look at your overall. I put some notes here. So your response appropriately addresses a task. So you talked about the campus announcement, then you talked about the listening. But be careful, because when you talked about the announcement, you're using past tense verbs. It posted about blah, 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 but then you also said it will blah, blah, blah. So you're kind of mixing your verb tenses in the beginning of the response, so be careful about that. You spoke with good energy and tone variation, which kept your response engaging, absolutely. However, there were several issues related to language use, grammatical accuracy, and pronunciation that affected intelligibility and clarity. So according to the rubric, I'm thinking right around 3. Because of some limited grammar control, passive voice comes to my mind right now, some occasional intelligibility issues, and some imprecise wording. So I think that is why you're at where you are. Let's talk about delivery. Okay, strengths, good tone variation and good speaking rate. Areas to improve. You had an unintelligible speech at about 31 seconds in there. I'll show you where it is right here. Where is it?
With
Let's
this
get right to it.
proposal. First of all, she thinks nowadays there are better ways to listen to music. Students, most of them carry now their phones, and they don't all actually a radio. So they actually listen.
They don't all actually radio, or they don't all actually own radios, maybe. So that was a little bit difficult there. Okay, the overuse of actually distracted from the flow. So try using more varied expressions. So you can say actually, but maybe one time. And then here are some alternatives. You can say in fact, indeed, as a matter of fact, and interestingly. So all of these words like actually, the purpose of these types of words is to emphasize points that you're trying to make. Language use. Strengths. You demonstrated a good range of basic vocabulary and some complex sentence attempts. The problem is you want to have basic and advanced vocabulary, so I think the advanced vocabulary you can do a little bit better with. Areas to improve. You showed a consistent pattern of incorrect passive voice usage. You said it is running by students. You should change it to it is run by students. So in this case, we need to use the form of the verb be plus the past participle plus by plus the noun phrase in order to explain or use what we call passive voice. So in English, passive voice requires, I just said that, right? So running is a present participle, so is running by students is incorrect. You also said should not shut down, and I would change that to the radio station should not be shut down. I think you said it should not shut down, but even it is weak. You might say the facility should not be shut down. So be careful again about forming the passive voice, Gigi. You want to use a form of the be verb plus a past participle. Okay, other grammar issues. It was this as students, most of them. I would just say most students, blah, blah, blah. That might be better there. Or you could say something like as students, many of them, or most of the students. So the pronoun use they was used without a clear referent. Always make sure the subject is understood clearly before using pronouns. You said there are better ways to listen to music. This is very vague. It's not strong. That's why I said your basic vocabulary is not bad. But if you said this, there are more accessible and modern platforms for music consumption, such as streaming devices, that's definitely going to be showing higher range of vocabulary if you said it like that. So what you said wasn't wrong, but I'm just saying it doesn't really show the preciseness of the vocabulary that the IBT human raters are looking for, and also speech rater. Topic development. Strengths. You included both the reading and listening content, which is good. You attempted to explain the student's opinion from the conversation. So areas to improve. Some details were underdeveloped or unclear, particularly near the end. The logical flow between ideas was occasionally choppy or unclear. So let's take a look at English versus Brazilian Portuguese. So here are some common issues you want to be careful about. So, issue. Passive voice misuse. Portuguese influence. Portuguese often uses reflexive or active forms. Solution. Practice English passive voice forms. Articles. The versus a. Articles are used differently in Portuguese, so read and mimic article usage in text. Reading is always good. I know you do a lot of reading, so I want you to pay attention to some of these issues I'm listing here as you're doing your daily reading, and then you can kind of get used to these structures a little bit more. Prepositions. Preposition use often differs in meaning and placement, so review common prepositions. Verb tense consistency. Verb tense shifts are more flexible in Portuguese. Be more deliberate about verb tense usage. So like I said, it was when you're talking about the campus announcement, you're kind of mixing the past with the present. I think it would be better you'd say something like in the reading passage, or the reading passage explains an announcement about blah, blah, blah. Just start off immediately with the present. It's okay to explain things using present tense verbs. Be careful about pronunciation of the TH sound, the ED sound. These sounds do not exist in Portuguese, so you can use minimal pairs and tongue training. The other one I forgot to put down here is the I and the E. I think probably in Portuguese you don't have the I as in bit. So you have mit, meet, hit, heat, sit, seat. Be careful about the I. That's the sound you want to practice a little bit more. It's a high front lax vowel, right? The E is a high front tense vowel, so the only difference between these two vowel sounds is the tenseness of the tongue when pronouncing the sound. So I think you have to get used to making your tongue more relaxed when you produce the I, as in mit. And then when you say meat, you're already good with that sound. Okay, let's do some practice exercises. Send these answers by email and I'll give you some feedback. So I want you to correct these sentences. Number 1, the article is written by a journalist. 2, the facility is operating by students. 3, the music was listening by many students. So correct those sentences. Then email those back to me and I'll give you some feedback on that. Okay, pronunciation practice. Read the following sentences aloud and record them. So I'm trying to get you used to language use a little bit more, and also grammar. Grammar and also topic development. Okay, number 1. The radio station is run by students who want to gain experience. 2, streaming devices like Spotify offer more accessible music platforms. 3, there's no reason to shut down the station if it's still beneficial. So record reading those 3 sentences. Make sure you copy and put those into the email too so I can see what you're doing. Okay, word choice. Precision. I think you want to be more precise and not vague with the vocabulary words that you're choosing. So rewrite this week's sentence with stronger vocabulary. There are better ways to listen to music. Think of a specific platform, device, or method that supports your argument and revise accordingly. But of course you have to explain it from the student's point of view. So overall, you're on the right track, and with some focused practice on passive voice, verb tense consistency, and pronoun clarity, you can easily push your score higher. Your delivery and enthusiasm are already working a lot in your favor, so build on that and then sharpen the vocabulary and the grammar, which the TOEFL calls language use. And your final score is 3.0 out of 4, 23 points out of 30. So just be careful when you're doing the next speaking practice test. Be careful about noticeable language errors, occasional intelligibility issues, and incomplete or imprecise expressions. This is your 3 kind of bullet checklist. So as you listen to the recording before you send it to me, I want you to pay attention to these 3 specific things. All right, and thank you for completing your practice test.